All right. It looks like things here are ready to go, gentlemen. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Xbox Roundtable podcast. This is show number 266, your place on Sundays for Xbox focused talk, plus a little more from around the game industry. Naturally, I'm your host, Invader, and as always, it is great to have you all here. Tonight we have plenty of notable things to discuss, lots of news from the past 7 days. The UK CMA has seemingly changed its stance and is now siding with Microsoft with the whole Activision purchase. We'll give our take on this. As well, news out of GDC as we saw an updated look at Senua from Hellblade 2. Is this game set to be a technical masterpiece? Like a showpiece even? Well, hey, we will touch on that. And of course, lots of seemingly positive Redfall preview news. That's very, very interesting. We will dive into that. So, all this stuff on the menu tonight, like I'm really looking forward to it. But first, let me introduce everyone on the panel. Tonight, we have a new face on the show. Everyone, please welcome Derek, the True Crow. How's it going, bud?
Oh, it's going great. How about you guys tonight?
I mean, everything's doing pretty well on my end. Centurion, you doing okay?
I'm doing pretty damn good, man. It's actually been a good couple of weeks.
I noticed. You've been really putting in those numbers on your channel. Awesome, dude. Awesome. Let's see. Now, Derek, I mean, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Have you been gaming recently? Anything new? Or are you going back to some old favorites? What's up?
Well, this weekend was obviously the Diablo 4 beta. So I checked that out. That was a lot of fun, especially with it being the first Diablo game I've ever played. I highly recommend it if you like those kind of games. When that's done, I'll end up going back to Halo Infinite because, that's obviously gotten a lot better since Season 3. And it's still going through doing Destiny. I'll do some Call of Duty every once in a while, but it's not really my favorite series.
All right.
Oh, and Battlefield 2042. Can't forget about that.
Nice. Yeah, they've been adding a whole bunch of new content as well. So, good on them. All right. Very nice. I look forward to your thoughts on things tonight, Derek. But first, let's move on down to the TXR panel here. We got General MLD. Buddy, how you doing?
Hey, it's been a pretty good week. A lot of good gaming news, a lot of good news for Xbox gamers. I finished the Dead Space remake. Pretty faithful, for the most part, recreation of the original. Some things are the same, some things are different, but I had a really good time with it.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. I'm probably gonna hold off a bit for that one. I mean, as always, I talk about my backlog, but I mean, hey, if you're saying some good things, and I know Centurion has as well, I might have to pick it up. We shall see. Moving on down the list, Eric Shockley, buddy. What's new?
Not much. Just been getting in as much time as I could with Resident Evil 4. I'll definitely... Some games you're just going to not put on the back burner. Like I got back into Deadfall, or not Deadfall. Mixing that with our topic tonight. A Dead Space remake. And kind of flipped to something else, and then, because it was long. And then flipped to that, but Resident Evil, I'm definitely seeing through. But yeah, it's pretty dope. I think the one question everybody's probably wondering is like the sensitivity. There is like a larger dead zone than what there should be, but it's nothing like it hasn't really bothered me after like the first like minute or so. You kind of just adjust to it, kind of like if you adjust your sensitivity at first, you might take a few minutes, and then you kind of muscle memory, you kind of adjust to it. So hopefully they get that patch, so it kind of, that's like the only gripe. Otherwise, is the way to play it for sure, with the clearer visuals between the two consoles, and better VRR support on for that smoother experience on between the PS5 and Xbox. But yeah, definitely give that a shot. But yeah, it's pretty dope so far, so can't complain.
All right, all right. Yeah, no, I've been hearing a lot of good things about that, and Resident Evil 4 is a very, very important game. A lot of people love that title, so I'm glad to see that they've done good. Moving on, Mr. Centurion. I know I called you before, but buddy, pal, how's your week been? I mean, I know you've been putting out a slew of videos. Glad to see you doing well there. Have you gotten any gaming in as well?
Oh, I've gotten a little bit of gaming in. Um, like I've been playing Gotham Knights. I've actually been enjoying the story. The gameplay is all right. I'm enjoying. It's not no Rocksteady game, that's for sure, or whatever. Like the whoever the developers of the Arkham Knight, and the Arkham Asylum and Arkham City games. But Gotham Knight, it's all right. The story's there. I mean, there's a lot of good mechanics, but there is still some frustrating stuff about that game. And then I've also been playing ESO, still trying to get the last expansion knocked out before the other one comes out here in June. So that's pretty much my whole thing with gaming, in between putting in way too many hours on just creating videos. But for some reason, it's like almost like a new addiction to me right now, is just having fun making content, seeing everybody get excited over it.
Mm-hmm. Totally, totally. And I'm excited for you. I'm glad to see it. It's great when you have that energy to put into the hobby, right? And you've been doing some really good things, and I hope you keep up with it, because I'm really enjoying seeing you skyrocket there, pal. Let's see. Well,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem, pal. No problem. Before we begin tonight, a quick reminder to check us out on a variety of platforms. As you know, we're on different audio platforms such as Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and loads more you can check down in the description. As well, we're on a few different alternative video ones, such as Rumble. We're trying to grow there, so hey, please give us a sub there, if you're already have a home there. The more the merrier, right? And we like being everywhere. Just, again, check the description below for all the links. Okay, we got more people filing in here. Chat's pretty going already, but why don't we go straight to our first topic with a rather big piece of information being dropped. Let's see. Yeah, information being dropped by the UK CMA. Earlier this week, the group updated its findings and has stated that the Microsoft takeover of Activision won't significantly lessen competition in console gaming, going further to state that the cost to Microsoft of withholding the title, like Call of Duty, from PlayStation would outweigh any gains from taking such action. So, obviously, there's lots to read into this one, but it's very telling, very telling. I would love to know what everybody's thoughts here on the panel are. Derek Pell, Mr. True Crow, why don't you lead us off here, kicks things off with your thoughts? What have you been thinking about these updated comments from the UK regulators? Because at least from my view, it looks like this could be them siding with Microsoft going forward.
Honestly, I think it's them being scared that Microsoft is going to take them to court. Microsoft has done everything with the multiple contracts with different companies for the 10-year deal with Call of Duty, but this whole situation shows that the people on CMA just does not know gaming, because everything that Sony was trying to throw at them, look, we don't want Call of Duty to be on Game Pass. We don't want specific perks for people who play on Xbox. And it's like, well, look what you're doing with Call of Duty. There are weapon specifics if you play on PlayStation and you pre-order. There are, if you go even further into Destiny, there's mission where only PlayStation players can play. I mean, everything that you're trying to stop Microsoft, or you think Microsoft is going to do, you're already doing. So honestly, this hurts Sony a lot more than it's going to overall it's going to benefit Microsoft, but I think when it comes to marketing deals, a lot of people are going to look at what they just did, and they're trying to block the merger just out of spite, not for any good reasons whatsoever, just out of spite. If it's true what Jim Ryan said to Lulu, I don't know if you guys ever heard what he said behind the camera, but he told her, he goes, I just want to block the merger. Didn't give her a reason why. Didn't, didn't explain why. He just wanted to do it. I mean, to me, that's not the kind of leader that you would need at the company. Here's Phil Spencer trying to say, hey, I'm trying to get Call of Duty into the hands of everybody. You own a Switch, Call of Duty. You play on Steam, Call of Duty. I don't know, you rig up some new console, Call of Duty. So that's the way I think it is. It's great that it's going to happen and it's finally moving forward. I know right now that they're still kind of worried about the whole cloud gaming thing, but I think Microsoft has done a great job with trying to move forward with new partnerships to show, hey, we're not trying to keep this off of any specific console. We're not trying to limit it to just Xbox. We're trying to get it in the hands of everybody.
All right. Yeah, that's a fair comment. Yeah, I think we're all kind of familiar with the whole Lulu Jim Ryan thing. Lulu's been very active, to say least, the past couple of weeks. So, yeah, I've seen her commentary. Very nice girl, by the way. Would love to have her on the channel. Love to talk with that woman. Let's see. Centurion Pal, I mean, I would love to know your thoughts. I mean, do you agree with Derek on this one? Or you got any other thoughts to add to this?
No, I'm in agreement that this is going to kind of hurt PlayStation. This is so when it comes to this whole situation, for starters, PlayStation has taken the easy way out on creating what's the word I'm wanting to use? Creating a hype around the multiplayer side of their console. And this is because they have not cultivated the multiplayer side of their consoles. We all see they have gotten rid of games like Resistance Fall of Man, Killzone. They completely nixed The Last of Us 2 multiplayer that is still somewhere out there in what we call the purgatory of gaming. You have no idea where it's at. Does it exist? Does it not exist? And we never did hear anybody from any of the communities demand to know more about a multiplayer game that was supposed to come out with a game, but they let that one slide, I guess. But with PlayStation now, they are going to lose that edge that they have with Call of Duty. Call of Duty is the place to play. PlayStation is the place to play Call of Duty. And like our guest here was talking about the incentives that Sony has been giving. One of the big ones this year is an XP gain that you get over on the PlayStation. On PlayStation, you will level up your character faster, have access to more weapons and the other stuff that comes with leveling your character up. And with crossplay, with that game having crossplay, that means PlayStation gamers have a distinct advantage on playing on PlayStation versus Xbox, which is kind of screwed up in my opinion, and that's where I like how all of a sudden Sony's being put on a level playing field. They're going to have to actually compete. They're going to have to give people an actual good reason why their platform is the best place to play a multiplayer game, and it's going to be nothing to do with being able to pay for that advantage. They now have to give that advantage, whether it's through innovation by creating a new game or just, I really don't know what to say when it comes to Call of Duty. That's why Jim Ryan and them do not like this. With Call of Duty being put into services like Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, they're not going to make as much revenue off of selling the game as they would having it in their PlayStation Plus, because let's face it, PlayStation Plus is a very smaller profit margin versus selling the game outright and taking whatever deal that they had hatched out with Activision at the time. And it looks like Microsoft is not going to get that deal because PlayStation's already come out and said that any discounts that Activision had negotiated are going to go away once Microsoft acquires them. But in my opinion, this is what the gaming industry needs. A lot of people don't like my way of thinking about it, but in my opinion, the gaming industry needs a shock. The gaming industry has become too stagnant. Sony has been king of the mountain for far too long without really any rival or challenging for that position. And anytime somebody has tried to rival that position, Sony has kind of drove them under. We saw it happen with Sega. We've seen, what I mean by the gaming industry has become really stagnant is we have seen a lot of good developers disappear over time, like THQ Nordic, and some of the other ones that made really great platforming games back on the PS1 and the PS2 era. But like Michael Pachter said, we are starting to see where, you know, developers that were okay living on selling a game that only sold 5-6 million units, they can't do that anymore because the industry has shifted into this 15-20 million units sold, blockbuster titles, AAA exclusives. It's become an unsustainable thing because of what PlayStation has done, being king of the mountain for far too long. And here comes Xbox with Game Pass, allowing these developers that relied on 5-6 million units sold to flourish again because they have now found another avenue of creating revenue to keep their companies open. And I just really feel that this is the shock that the gaming industry needs for things to change, because this has been a perpetual cycle over and over again for far too long. And finally, Sony is being challenged by somebody who has a deeper pocketbook and just as big a drive to be successful in gaming. And us as consumers are just going to benefit from the competition that is going to be created by this. I know some people say that this is going to stagnate competition. In my opinion, the way I look at it, I really do believe things are going to become uber competitive and consumers are going to benefit from this. And that's where, again, I lean on what Michael Pachter said in that interview, that Microsoft buying Activision-Blizzard, what's going on between PlayStation and Xbox, does not affect me in any way other than I am going to benefit from these two having a bickerment in gaming and trying to compete for my dollar.
Yeah, well, Sony certainly does like to get into the middle of things right now and try and postpone things as much as they can.
Well, actually, so Sony's meddling, this is one of the things I love about what Microsoft has done, is you got to remember, Microsoft, they are a very savvy company when it comes to political posturing. And yes, so a senator here in the United States that is technically, she has received over $500,000 in campaign contributions from Microsoft. I'm not scared to admit that because that's how our politics work. But Microsoft is basically using somebody that they have given numerous campaign contributions to over the years. And this person went to the Japanese economic meeting, and they brought it up to the Japanese regulators and also brought it up to American regulators that Sony has a monopoly on gaming, and it's time to start opening up what they have done to the gaming industry and how they've affected it in a negative manner by having a stranglehold on the gaming industry. And this is all because Sony decided to meddle in something that they really shouldn't have, because they probably didn't think for 1 second. Microsoft is like, all right, you want to play dirty? Well, we have a couple politicians on the payroll and we're going to throw you a curveball. And now there has been some flags thrown up. Now, whether or not they're going to go anywhere is completely debatable. But let's just say there has been some unintended consequences that could occur because of PlayStation opening their mouth.
Oh, damn. I mean, why can't we just get paid off, right? I mean, Microsoft is pretty generous, so, you know.
I know, right? If only.
Go towards a few new PCs for us. You know, why not? Here, guys, have on us, you know, support Microsoft, support Xbox. Here's some new Xboxes and some free PCs and some hats. Why not have some hats? Oh, man. No,
I also get some tickets to the Microsoft event in June with airfare.
Yeah, right. No, I don't like that idea of being paid off for my thoughts. But no, I know what you mean. General MLD, buddy, I know you want to chime in here. Do you agree with what Derek and Centurion are saying? Or, you know, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one.
Well, it's been a very fun week. the Twitterverse is pretty lively, I would say.
Yeah.
Really feel a change in the energy. I would say I don't know. It's a good time to be an Xbox fan right now, because I think anyone who's had an Xbox One knows that we've been waiting a long time, and it feels like all the pieces are falling into place now, and this buyout is one of them, and it will guarantee Xbox will be prosperous and gain a steady flow of games, and Game Pass will get better all the way into the future every year going forward. So it's pretty good times, at least coming off 2022. So when the CMA did this, they released this new provisional findings. No one really expected this. For one thing, it came as a surprise, but they surprisingly came around. And here's the thing. We all saw the CMA as the quote-unquote final boss. These were the tough nut to crack. This was the final thing in the way of the acquisition. And here they are saying it's okay. All of a sudden, yeah, Call of Duty, it will not cause a substantial loss in competition. It will not put Sony out of business, which is true. Xbox has been saying this for over a year. I mean, it was said before, the CMA just doesn't really know the industry. It took them this long just to kind of know what we all knew the whole time. But hey, it's okay. It's okay. Better late than never. So I'm surprised they said what they said. It was much better news than we could have ever expected, I would say. I think cloud is still an issue, but that's not a problem. All they got to do is keep making cloud deals like they have. I'm sure there's a few more players they can make a 10-year contract with, and there you go. Cloud's done. The whole deal's a wrap, in my opinion. Because EU, the rumors say they're looking to agree as well, and the FTC. Apparently, as long as EU and CMA fall in line, they're just going to make the deal go through, regardless of what the FTC wants to do. And while they're making it go through, they'll just work out a settle offer with the FTC. So it looks like the June deadline is a go. This is pretty solid news here. Now, I'm glad that the numbers won out against Sony. Frankly, just dishing out fear-mongering propaganda, these conspiracy theories, how Xbox, they'll make the game, the final level, buggy on only the PlayStation version. Like, just really bad excuses, almost borderline emotional kind of reasoning that you can't really back up with any hard facts. And then, Sony lobbied pretty hard overall, but as was also said before, Microsoft, they've been lobbying in the States for some time. Sony's lobbying efforts are pretty amateur compared to Microsoft. And now it looks like they're getting some attention that maybe they didn't want. So now it's looking at like the console sales in Japan, how the country prefers PlayStation so much compared to Xbox, and yet they're still making these exclusive deals like for Final Fantasy 16. How exactly is that fair for competition? So I'm glad the U.S. government notices this now and might give Sony some trouble for that. So the pros to this is that no more exclusive content for PlayStation. Xbox gamers who play COD will not feel like they're getting the inferior package. It will be equal from here on out. Fantastic. And if anything, we'll see exclusive marketing deals for Xbox, console bundles, all that kind of stuff. But what's most important is that once the Sony contract is over in 2024, we should be getting these games day one onto Game Pass. And that's the real prize, I think. That's the one that we can all say is a practical win for the average gamer here. And the way I see it, let the PlayStation gamers, let them buy COD for $70. Let them pay in full price and fund my Game Pass subscription. Let them fund my deals and future day one games. That seems like a win-win scenario to me. They still keep their game. They're playing Xbox first party, and our subscription gets even better. And then, what is it? And I think some other people on Twitter, they were reading the other parts of the document, and apparently the CMA also isn't opposed to other IP being exclusive in the future. And this was a big mistake on Sony's part, because they only focused on Call of Duty. Big mistake, because anything else in the future now it's all up for grabs. It'll be a Redfall or Starfield situation. There is no contract now going to be in place that will guarantee every other IP being multi-platform. The next Diablo 5, it could be Xbox exclusive. Then the next Overwatch, and so on and so forth. My personal opinion, I think if it's a massive kind of multiplayer game that relies on a big community, it will probably be multi-plat. But if it's a single-player game, like I think last year they announced Blizzard announced this new IP, this new survival kind of game. That might very well be Xbox ecosystem exclusive now that the deal is up, because when they announced that game, there was no platforms announced for it, just like when Starfield was announced. I see the similarity there. But yeah, I don't want to ramble on too long, but I mean, I look forward to getting a massive Game Pass drop by June. Hopefully they'll do it on their showcase event, make the show that much better. I plan to marathon my Call of Duty campaigns and Diablo 4, because I think Diablo 4 will come onto Game Pass, and do that all the way into Starfield. So overall, pretty good news. I think excitement is high. I think this was a major step towards this finally being put behind us. So good stuff.
But MLD, I mean, it's interesting too, the chatter on Twitter, like you were saying, because I see them now bringing up the 10-year deal that Microsoft offered, and all the I guess the PlayStation fans themselves are kind of worried that, again, because Sony didn't want to, as far as I remember, they weren't really interested in negotiating with Microsoft for like a 10-year deal. Microsoft was just being generous, right? Microsoft was like talking to everybody, every publisher, all the streaming platforms and so on, giving out all these deals. But I guess, again, predominantly PlayStation fans are kind of worried. It's like, well, let's say Sony takes this deal. It's like, well, what happens to, let's say, Call of Duty after 10 years? I mean, do you think that they would ever, like, after 10 years, like, make it exclusive to Xbox, or I guess Xbox platforms?
Personally, no. I think they do 10 years because we don't know what the industry will be like in 10 years. We don't know what Call of Duty will be like in 10 years. I mean, hypothetically, if Call of Duty were to shrink in popularity and the pool of money to be made becomes a lot lower, I mean, they could make it exclusive. But if it stays like right now, the numbers it's pulling right now, and stays that way in 10 years, I think they'll just renew it. No big deal. But going off that though, yeah, they made a big mistake not signing anything, because now Microsoft now can revise the contract, and what Sony does sign will be a lot less beneficial towards them. So yeah, I like that. They can basically tinker the details around what the CMA is now allowing them to do. So this was a case of Sony holding out for a better deal, but they held too long, and now it's going to bite them back. It's pretty poetic.
Well said, my friend. Let's see, we got Carlos Alvarado in the chat with the super chat, actually, for $1.99. Thank you very much, Carlos. He says, $1 deal for Game Pass over, no family plan incoming. Hit the like button, guys. Oh, hey, guys, smack that like button, in fact, because Carlos is being very generous, and you got to obey Carlos here with the super chat. Yeah, I was hearing about that $1 deal, Game Pass over. Well, it's been on there for a while, and I suppose, for certain economic reasons, I mean, they might have had to pull it back. I mean, it sucks, but it doesn't mean we won't see it again anytime soon, but, temporarily, we'll see. Then again, I mean, who knows? I'm not sure if they've actually put out a statement about it, but hey guys, for all we know, it could be like a little glitch or something. They could be doing something else with it, some other kind of a plan. We'll see. I mean, Microsoft and Xbox are constantly updating their services, and we'll just see, guys, in the coming days and weeks.
I mean, I don't think we expected it to be around this long as it has. So when they first announced it back in like 2018, and everybody was taking advantage of it. So
yeah, no, I agree with you, Eric. I mean, we weren't expecting it to last this long just for $1, and everybody thought it's like, oh, Xbox and Microsoft are out of their minds with this deal, but is what it is, guys. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it came back, well, later on anyways. Now, Eric Powell, since he chimed in there, what are your thoughts on the whole UK CMA update, because again, like, are you agreeing with the guys here? I mean, to me, it seems like it's pretty rock solid evidence that they're kind of just siding with Xbox here going forward.
Yeah, I think most of us kind of knew that there wasn't that much of a case against it, just because how big the gaming landscape is. Like, so even if they made Call of Duty exclusive, like, it's Sony's still very dominant, and they still, like, if you look at Xbox's first party in the past like 5 years, they haven't output near as much as Sony. And you know how Xbox is like almost non-existent in like Japan, which is big, pretty huge region for games, even though it might be smaller versus like obviously like North America and stuff like that. It holds its own for being a small country. And you see a lot of exclusives that just PlayStation has longer relationships and ties, so they're not, if they took over ABK and made all of it somehow exclusive, I don't think it's going to like disrupt the industry that much, versus like we've seen cell phone mergers where we only have like down to like 3 providers, basically. Whereas like you have in gaming, you can do PC, you can do, you have the 3 different consoles, and now cloud is becoming a big part where you don't even need to buy any of the, consoles for a lot of the games, especially with cloud. So you see a lot of that starting to happen with Xbox, and now there's competition in that, like with NVIDIA. And I think I was looking at some screenshots. The performance on the NVIDIA, their version of the cloud is far superior in quality compared to what even Xbox is doing with, running on the Series. I don't know if they're running on the Series S or Series X, but when I saw that comparison, I was like, oh, damn, I did not know they were like that far ahead. So obviously you probably need, I don't know if I think that one you have to like buy them outright, so it's not near the value that you get with Game Pass, where you have all those games at your disposal. So it's a lot more expensive route to do that NVIDIA version, or NVIDIA Shield, I think it's called. But yeah, getting back to that point, like, we've kind of known that there wasn't much of a case against them. And now we're kind of seeing that where it's like they're kind of running out of, stuff to throw at the wall. And now the only thing which they have a legitimate concern was cloud. And that's the one thing that, they still have, some iffiness about, but looks like Microsoft's willing to just do whatever, it takes at this point. So I'm sure basically they're telling them, hey, whatever you need for us to like make that, smooth over, whether you need it to be part of like some independent regulation, like they kind of offered up for the whole Call of Duty situation, like they're going to do. And, at this point, it's probably pretty much a done deal. Obviously, they have to go through all the proper steps and, sign everything and go through the rest of the process. But right now, they're already updating their findings of like, hey, yeah, we don't have a case against all the things that were that Sony has been the big, proponent about being against it. Because outside of Sony, it was pretty much it. And that was about the Call of Duty stuff that they were, fearful of, and some of the other possible ABK games, going away. They haven't really said much about cloud. I think they mentioned maybe like Game Pass, having like Call of Duty go into Game Pass like exclusively, that because they would never sign a PlayStation Plus deal for that, even though Microsoft was saying, hey, we'll do that too. But they're like, well, we don't want you to do that because we want to sell it to our customers full price. So I don't think they have any case or argument, or at least I don't think they've made one since the start on the cloud side. So I don't think they really have any people that are raising a case on that part, and that's the only part that's really left over, because they already tied up those loose ends with NVIDIA and all the other people that had like some questions early on. They tied up that whole cloud. So the one thing they have left, they don't really have anything fighting them against that. So, and CMA was, I guess, I believe the harder one that was, or the one that was being more critical up front compared to like EU. So if they have CMA in their bag, well, then they likely got the EU is going to follow suit. And once they get those two, they already said they're going to just go ahead and finalize the purchase. And then it's your move, FTC, to actually, assume and take them to court. And good luck. You already have your whole case was riding on the stuff that's already been pushed back by the EU. But if both those regulations went through, you're not going to have much of a case at that point. And good luck at that point, drawing it out. I don't think they would really, even if they got it that far, they, would really have anything they'd be able to push back on. So all they can do is, sue and take them to federal court. They're not the judge, jury, and executioner here as far as like deciding what's going to be finalized. So they can just make their case. And at that point, if both these two big regulators went through and the rest of the world, then probably not going to have much of a case. So, but we'll see. But hopefully this is, obviously everybody was saying, hey, we're done talking about it. I'm like, well, obviously not, because it's still going to get dragged out, I'm sure. But at least we're getting closer to, and then whether to see if both of these two go through, and then whether it goes into a later court case. I think the FTC said theirs was in like August or something, possibly. I can't remember.
Something like that,
what the
yeah.
deadline was. So obviously we're not out of the woods here, like, of talking about it. And who knows? It probably, when it's finalized, we probably still won't be, because I think even when they had the whole Bethesda meeting, telling us what exclusives or what was going to be exclusive, even that we're still talking about that with the whole Redfall stuff coming out recently. So,
well, the problem is, like, Microsoft has to walk on eggshells because, certain game journalists or websites or even rabid fans, really get, will go unhinged on them, go on rants or just, they'll let them have it for whatever reason. I mean, if it's their other preferred company, they won't bat an eye. But since it's Microsoft and, everybody's like, oh, Microsoft and Xbox, they need to address having more studios, more quality games, and so on. It's like, well, they go out and do that. Actually, they buy some of the better ones in the industry, and now everybody has a problem with it, right? So, of course, hey, take your time with, the Activision-Blizzard-King deal. I mean, it is a pretty monumental deal on its own, I get that, but I can't wait for this to be done. And I don't know if you heard, Eric, I mean, there's more articles popping up of Xbox talking to Japanese developers and publishers about acquisitions. I mean, behind the scenes, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, they're lining up, other talent behind the scenes once this deal is done. So,
yeah, I mean, you're seeing studios like holding out their hand, because now they're like, oh, well, it looks like it's pretty much a race to who's going to get consolidated and who can stay. Obviously, if going back, Sony probably would have like wanted to get Capcom now, when they were at their lowest and they got some of those exclusive like Street Fighter 5. That's probably when they could have scooped them up. Or they probably couldn't at that moment, because they were coming right off of PS3, which they did okay or did pretty well, but probably didn't have they probably had some stuff that they were making back, or just trying to get float back from those early PS3 console days. But yeah, now Capcom definitely doesn't need anyone to sell to, and nor would they probably be ever interested in it at this point. They're on a roll. They're hitting it out of the park. Whereas you have Square like selling off every piece they can that they feel like they don't really need, and where they need to like streamline down. But at that point, are the people that are ahead that are going to cash out possibly and move and be absorbed by Sony? Or are they just going to be, super loyal? Because we hear like a lot of times Japanese companies will be more possibly loyal to one company. But I mean, you've had good ties with Microsoft where they came in and helped fund, some of their Western studios like Tomb Raider. And so you've had those ties to both parties, obviously more with Sony. But if it came to the point where they were looking to sell, which everybody keeps bringing up their name just because how they've been shelving off and selling pieces off, would the people that are going to cash out, the high ups, Are they going to go to the lowest bidder? Because at that point, Microsoft would definitely scoop them up to add. That'd be a huge, even though they don't have, it doesn't feel like they have much left. That'd be a huge, just another Japanese developer, big in RPG, something they're missing. And that would be infused into Game Pass. And just think of all the different titles that like Square's like scared to make, or they're just, seems like they're just doing Final Fantasy and that's pretty much it. And they're kind of like, hey, we're not wanting to do anything else. We're selling off all these other parties that we thought we could be this big publisher. But now if they did come under Microsoft, that's where, hey, you could fund, here's all the creative, all your history, all this crazy IP you haven't tapped back into in 20, 30 years. I don't know. I mean, that would be a good, so I don't see, Sony's point of being able to step in and acquire, but I mean, but we'll see. I mean, they've been on a roll as well. So as far as like acquiring new, younger, independent talent. So if anything, I think it's good for the industry because they're finding their way. They're both finding their ways to compete. Obviously, Microsoft's trying to keep ABK, I think mostly just third party because the value in that is not to shut it down, but from being exclusive because you have just those annual, titles, whereas like you haven't had a new Skyrim and by the time the one comes out be like 15 years. So it's not like this annual, by that point, people won't even know what Skyrim is. So there's not this huge like heritage of fans. Like sure, there's going to be fans that, but at that point it's not like Call of Duty where it's like, hey, we would literally lose quite a bit because they're not going to shift over overnight. So, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, Sony has stated before that they are not done with acquisitions, so we'll see where that leads them. But again, I think there's going to be a slew of consolidation once this deal goes through officially, because everybody's going to want to get in. And I'll be curious what happens with Tencent, Ubisoft, EA, a whole bunch of other ones, Japanese ones, and again, many other studios and publishers. But I could certainly see a ripple effect once this does go official. Guys, any other comments about this? Derek, do you want the last word on this, or can we move on?
No, I think everybody, they said what they needed to say, and it was great. Everybody was right on point with, their thoughts.
All right. Sounds good. No. Good. Of course. All right, guys. On that note, we'll move on to the next topic. But first, guys, hey, we're having an awesome chat here. I know we got a lot of listeners tonight. You guys rock in the chat, as always. Guys, give a thumbs up if you haven't already. Help us out there. Helps with the algorithm. As well, hit subscribe if you're new here. We love the new faces. And share it out. We definitely want more people to know that we are live talking about some really hot topics from the past week. And guys, also, YouTube can be a little funky when it comes to notifications, so smack the bell, because again, sometimes they just don't come up very often, so they can be kind of lousy with that. But yeah, guys, just covering all the bases there, of course. But yeah, with that said, we will move on to some other bits of news. Earlier this week, we had the Game Developers Conference take place. Many developers and publishers were there showcasing various things, including games and, of course, new technology. Epic Games had a State of Unreal presentation that showed off, well, actually, quite a few new things, to be honest. I know there was a lot of hype from it. But, there was a lot of new tools unveiled, especially ones being used for Hellblade 2 protagonist Senua. Granted, it was just a very short demo, but it certainly showed off some big advancements in technology. Centurion, my cyber sleuthing friend, I know that you've been all over this news like a lion on a gazelle, if I do say. What's your thoughts on this to lead us off?
Man, where does one start with the Unreal Engine 5? We saw the demo that came out last year for the Matrix that was developed in partnership with some developers over from the Coalition. and they really knocked that out of the park. I mean, it was a very amazing I know it was on rails, but I mean, to really see just how lifelike those characters were. Some people were just wondering, is that Keanu or is that like CG'd? And everybody had that question in their mind. I'm like, can this be real? And then we saw like the 1 little minute trailer for Hellblade 2 come out here just a few days ago, where we saw the actress who played Sinua basically do some lines, and all of a sudden you see it cut at the end and it says Unreal Engine MetaHuman, and then it cuts to her in the motion capture suit. And that's when it sinks into your mind, like, oh my God, that was not her reading the line. Well, she was reading the lines, but that wasn't her. That was the CG Sinua from the game. And of course there was some, we don't want to point fingers, but there was some choice individuals on social media that swore to God it was her, and that there's nothing to be hyped over because it's just a real person reading lines. That was not a real person. And then we saw what was shown at the State of Unreal stage event at GDC, where one of the main guys over at the Unreal Engine comes out with the actress from Hellblade 2 and shows people a demo for MetaHuman, and then he shows them just how awesome this technology is, on how you can use this technology on a piece of performance tech, like, in a studio, on a high-end PC that's got massive compute power, all the way down to an iPhone. And to prove the iPhone, he brought an iPhone out on a tripod and had the actress from Hellblade 2 do some lines. And one of the tech guys that were with him used the data off of that phone and in real time converted it onto the PC and mapped her over a framework of a character. And he said all it takes is about 3 frames of data to create this character. And from that moment on, they have a framework over the character that they created in the MetaHuman data, to where they can now adjust, the eyes, the mouth. They can make them react any way they want. And I mean, as long as you've got the voice for the character, you can make this character pretty much say whatever they want. And you can also transfer that acting to any digital character. They actually took her performance and switched it to like 3 or 4 different digital characters, one of them even being a very artistic version of like a young male character. And they put her acting onto that character, and it mirrored her acting perfectly. And this is just going to make gaming better for all of us, because with Unreal Engine 5, they're able to do all of this in real time. The actress from Hellblade 2 talked about how when they would do motion capture for Hellblade 1, she would have to do all the acting, the motion capture, and everything, and they would send that data off to be processed. And that processing would sometimes take weeks, if not months, before they would receive that data back for them to be able to see the final results of that performance in the digital world. And if there was any mistakes, well, hey, got to get in the motion capture suit again and do it all over again. With the Unreal Engine 5 and this new MetaHuman way of doing stuff, they're able to do this in real time, and they can catch any mistakes, and they can also compare that performance side by side in real time with the actual actor's on-hand performance to what's being translated into the computer. And if something doesn't look right, well, you just do that take again, like in actual filming. This is why the film industry is starting to embrace the Unreal Engine, because of what it's offering when it comes to being able to create digital human characters in situations where, it might be a little dangerous to have somebody involved jumping off of a building. So you are able to motion capture that now. And if you're not happy with how it turns out, you just do the take again, just like in film. But it goes beyond just what was shown for the MetaHuman creator engine in the Unreal Engine. There's also stuff that was shown off for Lords of the Fallen. And Lords of the Fallen, I know a lot of people are like not exactly hyped about that game, but I really feel if you go watch the demo for the Unreal Engine version of their game, you'll see some stuff that might actually make you want to check the game out. They have the Chaos Physics engine, which is now part of the Unreal Engine, And the chaos physics engine is going to create lifelike movement to hair, clothing, belts, and other features of the character. And this is going to be done with what they called micro detail. The ability to, like, you'll be able to see the textures of the different type of materials that make up the clothing. And then there's also the GI Lumen part of the Unreal Engine, where they're able to do lighting effects, both for shadowing and lighting a room. And again, they're able to do this in real time. They don't have to send the data off to be processed and be like, oh, I don't like the way the shadows fell over there, and do it all over again. It can be done in real time. And because it can be done in real time, they're even talking about how the GI Lumen will create a more optimized game for us players, and it won't make it to where we have as many bugs because of the lighting effects. The Unreal Engine 5 is turning out to be a very amazing piece of technology that's really going to hammer home a lot of great game development for all platforms that embrace it and the developers that are able to use it. It's also going to make it to where development times can be done, and like more complex stuff is going to be able to do in a shorter amount of time. And it's honestly, a lot of this is being really pushed on the Xbox side by Ninja Theory. I thought it was funny earlier in the show when we were talking about, stuff that Sony missed out on. I'm pretty sure Sony's really kicking themselves in the ass right now for passing on potentially acquiring Ninja Theory, because Ninja Theory is doing some pretty amazing stuff. If you look at what they're doing with Project Mara and just what they're doing with how they're using LiDAR and other surface mapping technology, and they're taking advantage of the Unreal Engine, and they're creating surfaces that are absolutely amazing. I mean, like the wood grain on the walls, the dust on the floors, the water on the sink, just amazing surface detail that is being presented with what they're bringing to gaming. And Ninja Theory is really been working very closely with the Unreal Engine developers, or, the guys over at Epic for Unreal. And they had a good part in helping create the metahuman part of the Unreal Engine. They wanted to really show that this technology works, and some of its big mainstream implementation is going to be in Hellblade 2. So I really think that us Xbox fans, those who have been very supportive of the ecosystem, are going to be able to see some of the fruits of the labor now with Microsoft and some of their acquisitions. And in my opinion, our Ninja Theory is going to be our Insomniac games. They are going to be doing stuff that other publishers and other developers are going to be seen as like a magic show, where for Ninja Theory, it's just going to be the everyday way of doing business, which they referred to as the Dreadnought style of doing games, where they use small development teams of just a few people to focus on the game at hand, and doing this by using technology in ways people didn't even think possible.
Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with you. The only thing that I would say is, just to add, Microsoft has missed their fair share of studios too. I mean, you look at
come on, BioWare, of course.
BioWare, Bizarre Creations. I mean, I could go on and on, but I totally understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing.
For me, it's more like I hate being the guy that digs on PlayStation, because I actually enjoy what they do. For me, I don't like how PlayStation really is just like, oh, you're an independent developer, it's okay. We have bigger aspirations, where they don't understand a lot of your big innovation and ground-breaking things that are going to really push gaming, really get their seeds planted in the independent gaming development side. And that's where you see these developers that have passion for gaming, that have to make a name for themselves, are willing to push the envelope.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely correct there, Centurion. Absolutely. Now, Derek, bud, I know that before the show started, we were talking a bit about like Hellblade on Unreal Engine. Lots of impressive things going on there. I know that you're a Hellblade fan. What do you think of this latest tech demo? Because, I mean, it's certainly caught a lot of eyes here. Centurion loves it. What are your thoughts?
Welcome to next gen. It's one thing for a tech demo. Tech demos are always supposed to make the engines look really good. The technology within the engines, this is what you can do. This is what you can do. From, going back to when Nintendo started, you really have to see the game play. Hellblade, love the game. Can't wait for number 2. But it's not very demanding on the system. The same thing goes for Playground games and Forza. Forza looks fantastic, but again, the game's not very demanding on the processor. So you got to look. I want to see what the engine's going to do with games like Gears of War. Coalition is phenomenal with Unreal 4. So for them to get their hands on, and they even had a little tech demo themselves, but I want to see them have Gears 6 up and running. This is what we can do. This is still in development. This isn't even optimized for PC or Xbox. That's thing that I have. I can't wait because I'm excited. I've seen a lot of people who have messed around with the Unreal 5, and I've seen some of the demos that they've come out with, and they look phenomenal. But again, it's nothing that would require, explosions or all these little particles coming from metal grinding together. That's what I want to see. So I'm trying to. Hellblade's going to look great. I can't wait for it. But I want to see this engine working on a game that demands a lot from processors, and not necessarily on PC because, PC guys, you guys can upgrade your equipment like that. I want to see it running on the Series X or even the Series S. That's what I want to see with Unreal 5. I want to see the developers. This is what we can do on PC. This is what we're doing on Series S. Check it out. And not be able to tell a difference.
All right. No, very well thought out there. Very well thought out. Did just out of curiosity, did any of the Fortnite stuff catch your eye? Like the the editor tools there, or are you just more interested again on the Hellblade stuff?
No, I actually haven't had a chance to look at that. I've seen some people kind of design some stuff with that, and I thought that was very, very interesting. I thought that was so cool. And I'm glad that a lot of games like Fortnite or even Halo Infinite's Forge, allowing people to show their creativity and the game giving them the tools to do that. I mean, the possibilities are going to be endless with, going forward with the future of gaming.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Again, I'm not the most creative when it comes to those editors, but at the same time, I really do appreciate the content creators that spend hours upon hours of dedicated time in them, because they make some really fantastic stuff. And again, I don't do that stuff, but like I really appreciate that because it just means more content being pumped out. For us to try. I really like those custom content browsers, and again, the community just comes up with a lot of fun things that developers might not have thought of. So really looking forward to comes out of there. Yeah, no, exactly. Eric Shockley, pal. I mean, did you catch any of the stuff coming out of GDC? Because again, the talk of the town was certainly the Hellblade 2 stuff. Please give us your thoughts. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I didn't see too much. I saw kind of what the snippets they post on Twitter, some of the first stuff that they showed with the just the facial animation that we saw with Senua when she was in character, and then some of the other cool parts where they were, as others have said, shooting on, something simple as an iPhone. And within, I think they rendered it within like 3 minutes from when they shot it. And then you had that back on screen, which is just nuts. And I think, sure, it's probably going to help like, AAA, style level developers and probably cut down some of their time. But I think it's going to do even more for like some of the indie devs where they might not have the most expensive equipment, or just like time. Whereas like a studio that's, Sony Santa Monica or, Naughty Dog, something like where they're a big studio and they have the first party backing financially, and where they can have multiple teams, crunching out, like doing the rendering and stuff like that, where they kind of pointed out when Ninja Theory was indie, they'd have to wait, weeks for this to render out. And for a smaller developer that, is trying to make sure and is usually banking on their next project being able to fund their next, basically fund their time to get out the project after that and so forth. And that's what, Ninja Theory was kind of saying, how they were kind of just like in this rut of like, hey, we did this little project with Hellblade, and then, we did all these other projects to fund it, and now this is just getting us to our next, carrot, stuff like that. So this is going to cut down some of that time, and for a lot of smaller indie devs that can make, close to a AAA, kind of like Ninja Theory's whole MO with Hellblade 2. They're a smaller team making that game, but they're, have the confidence and have the knowledge. They're definitely one of the best in the industry as far as the mocap. They got that.
Oh, hold on there, Eric. You kind of cut out there. Well, I think I hear you a bit.
I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Go ahead.
My bad. My stupid AirPod just fell right out of my ear when I was.
I think the Sony guys got you.
Yeah. With the mocap, they're one of the, best as far as like having the expertise around that. That's one of their strengths. Whereas I think in the first Hellblade, I think we can all agree the combat was maybe the part that we needed more in depth, more complexity to it, for the sequel. So hopefully that they're nailing that. But as far as like a dev like them that can, knows what they're doing, especially with that mocap, they can do a lot, especially with this tech, with a smaller team, which is great. You don't need these giant studios or, as we saw with like Halo, probably however many few hundred or however many contractors like doing all this other stuff. That this is going to definitely help speed up that process, to get to the hey, okay, cool, we got this part shot done, we can see it, we're not waiting. And then for indie dev, waiting that time, the time they don't have to get this one out so they can start making revenue, start making money, funding, and keeping their doors open. So it's going to be great for smaller devs for sure. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see. And I'm sure there's going to be some other cool stuff that we still haven't seen from Unreal 5, because I don't think there's been any, because they recently, in the last like year or so, had fully released it. So I don't think we've yet to see a game, I think, doing that was, full development under Unreal 5. I'm not sure if that's the case, or if there has been one yet, but that wasn't just like a transition. But hopefully Hellblade, we get a release date in a couple months, or at least more, more showing of that, since they already did that tiny small slice they said was gameplay. So hopefully that means after this showing that they have some more to show us here in the coming months, so we can really see even more what Unreal 5 has to offer. So, but yeah, it was pretty dope.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting showing. I wasn't keeping personal tabs on it at first, but then when I was seeing the reaction from everybody, I'm like, oh, there's some interesting stuff coming out of here. So, that's always nice, to see some surprises like that pop up. I've been certainly enjoying it. General MLD, my friend, I know you were also keeping an eye on this, all the news popping up. Do you have any thoughts on the Hellblade 2 stuff? Hell, even Fortnite? What do you think about, like, again, all the Unreal Engine stuff popping up?
Personally, I looked at the Hellblade 2, featurette there, and as well as the Unreal Engine demo with the car and all the jungle, all that kind of stuff. It's just really really impressive. I think Unreal Engine is leading the charge in terms of like graphical fidelity and just the level of detail that these engines are putting out. Ninja Theory, these guys are just technical wizards. I think they're on the edge of in terms of like facial capture. Will we see what we saw with Senua in gameplay? Maybe not. I definitely say cutscenes for sure. It will look as good as what we just saw. So like it was just so incredibly detailed. It blew me away, and it's really really impressive what these guys are doing now that they are part of Xbox and they got some more creative freedom, so a bigger budget. I'm pretty sure Hellblade 2 is gonna blow us all away and do things that the first game couldn't even they wouldn't even think about doing for the first game because it just wasn't possible or they didn't have the money for it. We're gonna see a night and day experience with the sequel here. Hopefully that's their holiday closer. That's my personal wish list, that it will be their November big title for the holidays. But if not, if it's like slips into quarter one 2024, that's okay too. Take the time you need, put out the best game you possibly can. But yeah, otherwise it's good that a lot of Xbox studios are using Unreal Engine 5, and like the Coalition, I can't wait to see what the next Gears of War looks like. Was it Obsidian? Yeah, other studios too. It's just a really good time. I feel like we're really going to see these consoles get pushed to their limit in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and again, I'll be very curious. Again, it's been a while since we've seen anything from Hellblade 2. I know, like, we see the occasional like motion capture picture from the studio, and there's teases, but again, this is a game. Actually, I suppose there are a lot of games that got announced back in 2020, 2021. And a lot of people have been wondering about Hellblade. I mean, I'm all about taking your time, make the game that you want, be careful. But at the same time, again, we're going on 3 years knowing about the game, something like that. I'm kind of curious to see if we'll see it, in June for the Xbox showcase. I would really love to. If they're going to tease us with something like this, I mean, I'm hoping that they have some kind of gameplay to show off. In-engine gameplay. They have to by now. Much like UMLD, I'm kind of hoping they close off the year with that title, or at least start off the first quarter of 2024 with it. But time will tell. Time will tell. What do you guys think in the chat? Would you like to see it, Hellblade 2, come at the end of the year? Hopefully at the Microsoft showcase. Put your thoughts in the chat. Guys, any other thoughts before we move on? Yes, no? All right. We'll move on. But again, like this technology with Unreal Engine 5, they're doing a lot of really impressive stuff. And I'm going to keep my eye on this engine for sure, and the games that are running on it going forward, because it is really something, from the foliage, the little details, just everything about it looks really good. Again, Carlos Alvarado in the chat, the 199 super chat. Thank you, man. I feel very blessed with the donations from you. He says Ubisoft Plus launching in April. Anyone heard of this? I don't know, guys. I don't know. I haven't heard anything personally. That might be a good time for it. We've heard little things about it off and on, but nothing concrete from what I'm to understand. No, I don't think anybody really knows, to be honest. But guys in the chat, if you have some information, some more details on that, please let us know. No, I haven't heard anything official about that, unfortunately. But, we have been waiting on it for a while. We'll see. In time, my friend, in time. Let's see, what else do we got here? Well, I mean, I think on that bit of news, we will move on to, the last topic for the evening. But it's still pretty significant, in my opinion, because there's a lot of praise for this. Now, recently, various outlets and media personalities have had hands-on access to Arcane's latest title, Redfall, which comes out in May. And, I'm not even making this up. There's been seemingly overwhelmingly positive praise coming forward about the game, praising things like the map design, the world, and of course the gameplay. It's a game that I've kind of off and on been keeping my eye on. I mean, I haven't really been excited for it, but the more I see of it, the more I'm like, yeah, you know what? I really want to check that out. Now, General MLD, my friend, I know that we've been slowly been having more information come out about this title, and the more previews that we see, the more it's looking like Redfall could be potential standout. Now, what do you think about the recent praise for the game?
Oh yeah, I think the several months of delay did the game very well. Arcane's never really made a bad game. I think their main problem was always just exposure. I don't think the Dishonored games or Prey were ever really big sellers. So this way they can bypass all that stuff. I mean, sure, the game will still sell on places like, Steam and console, whatever. But I think Game Passes will give them that reach that they've always wanted. In terms of the game itself, yeah, it looks very, very good. Like, I am a fan of like a more open world kind of game, but everything's a little more, what is it? Condensed? Yeah, condensed, because unlike say Far Cry, there's no cars you can randomly find and just drive around. Everything's within like running distance, which is good. Like, so like explorable buildings, a lot of loot, crafting, all that stuff. I plan to play as the sniper. I like sniping things. I like the stealth build kind of thing. Also, is like his bird that attacks and does stuff. That reminds me of the guy from Borderlands, which I also played. Same kind of sniper build kind of thing. So it looks like a lot of variety. I'll probably play the game solo, then maybe again with someone else. Who knows? But I like that they plan for all that kind of stuff. Like you can play the game solo, or you can play the game co-op. It works either way. So it takes a special kind of talent to do that. So, and not like make one feel like the real way to play, another one kind of isn't. It's like more like an add-on. No, like both ways are, pretty decent way to experience the game. So that's good. So there's that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That I think is May 2nd. Yeah, that can't come soon enough. So then there's a whole controversy online, I think, because a developer revealed that Xbox canceled the PS5 version. So they're working on both versions internally, at least, not officially. I'll get into that later. And once the buyout happened, Xbox execs go to them and say, "Yeah, don't worry about the PS5 version. Just make the Xbox PC cloud, and that's it." And the developer actually praised that, saying, "One less platform to worry about. Game Pass is going to be really engaging for us, like in terms of reaching players." So the guys seem pretty okay with that, but. Of course, everyone online only focused on the first part, how the PS5 version was canceled. Well, and they tried to draw these. Sorry, go.
Oh no, sorry, not to interrupt, but it's like nobody even knew about the game, so it's like there was no. Okay, they said it was in development, but it's like it wasn't officially announced. Like when the purchase happened, nobody knew about the game. I don't know. It became an Xbox exclusive. That's the thing, right? You can have some games multi-platform, but obviously Microsoft and Xbox are buying these to be permanent staples. Like for the majority, these games that they're buying from these publishers, developers, and so on, they're acquiring these to be competitive, right? And the majority of these are going to be exclusive.
Yep. So to go into that, people, of course, the PlayStation fans. Or fanboys, they make these very bad comparisons to Phil Spencer quotes. These guys can't interpret a Phil Spencer quote to save their lives. They reference things like how Phil said, "We don't want to take Xbox games away from people," and I'm thinking, I'm saying this to them as well. Like he's talking about games already on, like Doom Eternal, Fallout 76, games like that. This game never existed in a official capacity. Maybe it was talked about internally, but internally isn't the same as official. It was never announced for PlayStation, and that's what matters. Furthermore, those comparing it to Call of Duty, saying that if they pull Redfall, they're going to pull Call of Duty. Call of Duty has contracts in place, enforceable agreements they will do for 10 years. This had no contract. If you show me that there's a contract, legally binding, that promised Redfall on PlayStation 5, then you got an argument. But if it was like notes on a chalkboard, like planned internally, that does not count. That is not the same. At the end of the day, they are first party. It is an Xbox's right to make exclusives for their own brand. People wanted Xbox to do better. Well, this is Xbox doing better. You may not think their methods are fair, but I don't think they care what you think their methods are fair or not. They're doing what people have asked, and this is how you do it. And it's funny how people have an issue with a first-party publisher making exclusives for Xbox, but you have a third-party publisher like Square making Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and nobody bats an eye, even though that they are an independent publisher, and this is a first-party publisher. But it's like, rules for thee, but not for me kind of thing. In the end, I think people are they're just salty. They didn't actually expect Xbox to do better, but now that they actually are, it's a problem now. But ultimately, if it was internal and not official, you guys got nothing in terms of like these arguments against it. It's an Xbox exclusive, it's Xbox first party, and that's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So it's also funny, a lot of this chatter, it's just a lot of free publicity. It really got the name out there, I feel like. So the previews are positive, Xbox is getting a great exclusive, and the supposed haters who couldn't care less about this game beforehand can't stop talking about it now. It's very nice. It's very amusing.
Mm-hmm. And also, did you notice the news a few days ago too that Arcane's working to remove the always online as well?
Yes, that is. Oh, thank you. It was such a small thing. It's funny how people made such a big deal when it was always online. Everyone talked about it, but when this news dropped, everyone was so quiet, like crickets by comparison. So it's good that you mentioned that, and it also shows that they're listening to people, which also means that if this game has if you can play this game offline, it won't be shut down in the future like other live service games are. This game can be preserved over time because it has a offline mode. So I'm glad they're listening, and I hope they can do it. If not at launch, but then do it later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Well said. Well said. I mean, to be honest, especially in this day and age, I mean, I don't mind when it comes to certain games, the always online, but this is nice. This is nice because again, you can play by yourself too with Redfall. You don't have to play with other people. I mean, it's probably better playing with other people, but just play by yourself, not having to worry about the always online aspects. It's kind of nice. I'm happy to see them work around that, so I'm glad they're addressing those issues because a lot of people did have concerns. Not really me personally, but hey, whatever, to each their own. Let's see now. Derek Powell, obviously these Redfall previews have been coming out. I've seen a lot of different outlets voice a lot of praise for it. I mean, I'm not saying all of them did. I did see some negativity, but for the most part, I mean, a lot of them were like really surprised or like, oh yeah, this game is actually pretty fun. We're really digging the enemies, the world, and so on. I'm just kind of taken back by it. I was kind of surprised. What's your thoughts on all this praise coming out of the preview so far?
I think it's awesome. I saw the reveal trailer, and my interest was piqued. And then all of a sudden, a lot of these leaked photos came out from gameplay, and they're like, "Wow, the graphics on this looks terrible." It's like, I don't understand why the gaming community makes such a big deal about that, because the game is still in development. Optimization is the very last thing that a developer does before they release the game. But anyways, the praise, I'm glad, because this is, like I said, this is one game that really piques my interest. It'll probably be something that I play through the summer, because like it was said earlier, Xbox kind of does lack in releases, especially AAA games. Hopefully with ABK being finalized soon, it'll change all that. But Arcane, they're a great developer. It's like General said, they haven't had the exposure. Prey was a great series. Dishonored was a great series. Deathloop that came out for PlayStation for the first year, and then now it's on Xbox. That's a great game. So, I mean, there's no reason to think that Arcane can't pull off an open world, crazy vampire hunter, it's like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Borderlands type game. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about it.
All right, very nice, very nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of again, positivity around it. Again, that's not to say that the game might not have its issues, but at the same time, I don't know, it's kind of nice. I mean, nobody was really talking about it, to be honest, but over the past, basically since the beginning of the year, I've been seeing more and more talk about it. I'm really happy. I'm really happy for it because, I mean, personally, I like Arcane's games. They did pretty well with Dishonored. Parade was pretty good as well. Actually, I need to finish that now that I think about it. But right, so much on the backlog. But yeah, I do like what they're doing, and Deathloop, man, I actually really enjoyed Deathloop. But they do bring new ideas. They do bring a lot of new ideas. I'm happy to see them, tackle something that's a little different from them. Not quite single player, but at the same time, a lot of teamwork aspects too. Eric Shockley, pal. I mean, I would love to hear your opinions on this. Again, this was a game that wasn't really talked about. Now we're seeing all kinds of, interesting, pretty receptive comments from game media and different, I would say, content creators that had access to it. What are your thoughts on all this commentary? Oh, and I'm not sure if you had your mic muted or not, Eric. I just wanted to check there. But we'll move on. Centurion Pal.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I got you, man. Yeah.
As you're on one of the ends. No, I did look over IGN's post. They looked, or they were talking pretty favorable of it. I think one of the aspects that most people, when they've shown it off, we're kind of just like, okay, how is this? Is there? Because at least I criticize a little bit as far as like what they've showed off early. It just didn't seem like, okay, like what are we doing? I get they're going into this house, but like there's still kind of like some mystery of like some of the missions, which I think they've talked about more, like that it's more like Far Cry, and so you're going to be doing different tasks or getting different unlocking different strongholds and kind of moving throughout there. I did look over IGN's post, their whole preview of it, but I was glad to see seems like there's a lot more ways to tackle certain things, kind of like that whole Dishonored feel. So I guess a little bit. I don't think I've played any of the Far Cries, even though I probably own most of them, just because off of cheap sales that I never got to. But overall, it's starting to look a lot better than I think some of just the early trailers that we saw, where it just didn't seem like there was any direction where they would show a trailer but didn't really say anything about it. Whereas like when they finally showed off a lot of Starfield, Todd was out there kind of telling you like, oh, okay, here's what we're doing in this scene. Okay, this is what you're going to be able to do with this ship. Okay, you're going to be able to modulate and do all these cool things. Whereas I think Redfall, they've just kind of like shown somebody playing, and no one's like, in a first-person game, especially like a first-person game like that, where you don't see the character, you don't see a lot of the stuff that's around you, and just knowing, okay, like what are we doing? Obviously, we're taking out like vampires, and people. That's why people have made so many assumptions about it, of like, oh, is it just Left 4 Dead but vampires? So they've kind of had that. There's been an issue whether I want to be critical of them or not. Like people have asked, like, is it Borderlands? Is it like they've asked those questions a million times over. So it's good to see. For the most part, there was a few previews where they weren't so glowing of it, but for the majority of the previews that I saw that went out, other than I think it was like PC Gamer, and I think it was a total of like 2 that were like more negative about it. Everybody else is pretty glowing. So I'm going to trust Arcane because they haven't let us down before. Dishonored was definitely definitely my top, I'd say probably top 5 from the 360 gen. So I'll definitely, for sure give it a shot. I think it's supposed to drop in, is it May? Keep thinking it's April, but
it's May.
2nd.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what else is really dropped. So that's probably a perfect time for it to drop, especially going right into summer, and then it's going to be on Game Pass. So I think that's really going to help infuse a ton of people on it, kind of like how we saw with Outriders, where you had everybody jump on a Game Pass, and that's why everybody was playing, and you had a huge community on a game that most of us weren't that hype about. So Arcane has a pedigree, so there's going to be, I think it's supposed to be cross play, I believe, with PC, so that's definitely going to help with the player base. But it is cool, like Invader said, that they're listening to the community right away and trying to resolve the whole offline issue, for the single player. For pretty much any single player, that should not be the case. I think Diablo's still doing it, and a few others. But yeah, just if you're going to have any single player part where you can literally play by yourself through the whole thing, obviously Destiny you can't, because you do have to do strikes with other people, even if you're pretty much a solo player, or the raids. So obviously it's not technically, so it makes sense why that's always online. But for this, if they're saying, hey, you can play with friends or you can play by yourself pretty much the whole thing, then that part of it should be offline. But they should also address the issue with the whole, hey, if I play with my friend, okay, we got to either do it twice, or I got to go do it by myself, do it all over again, but by myself, because I was in my friend's host. They definitely need to address that, which I'm hopeful they will, since seems like they're already trying to work on a remedy for the issue with the whole online thing. So, but they did make it, I did hear in the preview that with the tethering, you can kind of like go off and do not your own thing, but you're not as, kind of like when you play with like Destiny sometimes, like if you're more so in a strike, not just like on the planet, I forget what they call that, where it's just kind of free roaming. But when you're actually like in a strike, you get kind of tethered to your other party. So if you get, just too much ahead, or if they're a little bit ahead of you, you're getting pulled right when you're like trying to get a few extra hits with a certain gun that you need or something. So apparently it's pretty wide margin as far as like you're not going to just get instantly just teleported. So that's definitely cool to see. So, but I did see a lot of the ways that you can take out like vampires, all the different creativity that you could do with Dishonored.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like that's kind of in here, because they were really great with that. When you would watch like some pros like play like Dishonored, you're like, shit, I didn't even think of that. It was almost like a domino setup where they had everything exploding, wires ripping people apart. Like some people would be crazy with that game. So it seems like there's a lot of that creativity that's going into this, where you can tackle a situation or take out enemies in myriad of different ways, which will definitely keep it kind of fresh and not the combat getting just stagnant. Like, oh, we just went into this room, take out vampires. Okay, cool, we're done. And that's where it kind of gets tiring after a while. So if they have some of that creativity in there, it's going to freshen it up. So, but we'll see. A couple months to go. So it's coming up here quick.
Yeah, you're right, Eric. Not too far away now, only a couple of weeks. What, maybe 4 or 5 weeks? Yeah, about 5 weeks, something like that. Wow, it's actually really coming close, because we'll have, I think April 12th is Ghostwire Tokyo on Xbox, and then we got on the 18th, I think it's Minecraft Legends, and yeah, lo and behold, not too far away, we got Redfall. Yeah, we got Redfall on the 2nd. Damn. So, not too bad. Now, Centurion Pal, I gotta hit you up on this, obviously. Now, I'm not sure if Redfall was ever on your radar. I mean, personally, it wasn't really on mine, but the more I see of it, the more... I gotta admit, it is kind of catching my eye. We see these previews popping up, and again, they are pretty favorable for the most part. Anything catch your eye from this? Like, again, it's nice to see an Xbox game get all this praise, but I don't know, do you think that this might be a surprise hit coming up?
So right off the get-go, just to put it out there, I'm not always one that hops on the websites to look at some of these up and coming games, because at least for me and my personal preference, or my tinfoil hatted mind, I don't like how some of these sites grade on a curve. Like, somebody said earlier, what's good. I mean, the rules are for you, not for me, kind of thing, especially when it comes to the whole situation with exclusives. And that's where I kind of don't really hop too much into these. I read the articles here and there. I've known of this game since it was first kind of like hinted at. And we saw, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Hints of it, and like talk about it on social media, especially when some stuff was leaked earlier, when the game was like really early in development. And it's always been kind of on my radar because I have a close group of friends that I play multiplayer with, and I know this is going to be one of those games that I'm going to enjoy playing with them. I'm glad to see that they've put some thought into it. Like, I mean, how many multiplayer games have we played where the story isn't really well hatched out and you have no idea why the boss characters are the boss characters? They just exist. At least what was portrayed in the IGN article, we saw that not only did the boss character have a backstory, but there was like a little bit of a puzzle that they had to figure out just to kind of continue through that story. I like games that make you think. I don't like the idea of like just knowing exactly where to go. You always got the marker. Hey, you got to find this note. Bink, marker. The note's over here. Hey, you got to go do this. Marker pops over there. I like a game that makes you kind of think for a second. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm enjoying Arkham Knight, is because you have to use the investigator mode, and you got to investigate and actually use some critical thinking skills. That's where I'm excited for this game. Was it a big deal for me on the always online thing? No. I know how people feel. I understand their arguments, but I'm sorry, if always online games were a bad thing, they wouldn't be some of the number one games in gaming. Like, there is some games out there that make a lot of damn money, Destiny included, The Division. We could sit here and bounce ideas off each other all night on games that have an always online connection. If that bothers you, then regretfully, it might not be the game for you. But at least it's good to see Arcane is listening. But maybe it wasn't exactly Arcane. What if it was something that Xbox, like, Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, the guys over at Xbox, they found out? What if they were completely, because they're executives, they don't have the ability every single day to know every little finite detail of the game that's being put out. And what if they caught wind, like, oh, always online? Well, that kind of goes towards, us wanting to keep games alive as like legacy titles. So maybe we should ask Arcane to look into trying to do this, because obviously Arcane, they're still under the Microsoft umbrella. They have to answer to Microsoft, and maybe Microsoft is like, hey, we're going to flip the bill for you guys to figure out how to make this possible, because we didn't like what happened with Remedy and Crossfire X and a couple of other games that we've put some money into, where now the servers are shut down and that game is no more. It kind of looks like a black mark on what we try to push. And speaking of what Microsoft, Phil Spencer tries to push, dude, Phil Spencer was talking about, when we play together, we all win. That was for the adaptive controller. That does not apply to every single damn game that Microsoft is going to put out there. And by the way, Microsoft Xbox has one of the biggest expansive ecosystems out there. The only ecosystem that's pretty much shunned out is PlayStation. Go get a damn PC, play it on your cell phone. The ecosystem is not walled off to you. Sorry that it's not on your preferred way to play. But that's just the nature of the beast. I would love to play Final Fantasy VII on my preferred console. Well, guess what? I have it on PS4. I'm not going to rebuy it for PS5 because I already have it for PlayStation, but it's going to stay on PlayStation. It's the reason why I bought it. this whole situation with Redfall, I'm glad to see that the developer is listening, but I also have no concerns about what is going to happen with this title, especially when it comes to the developer's pedigree in creating the game, because I liked how one of the leaders of Arcane that had to do with the Redfall development came out and was very blunt in an interview. I forget what interview I read, but he was bluntly stating that he is used to being in the shadow of Bethesda for a large part of his career. He has had games like Dishonored and Prey and other ones come out, and they were overshadowed by, he even mentioned Skyrim. He had a game come out, and then Skyrim was released pretty quickly after that, which completely rained on any success that game was going to have. He talked about how he's released games, and a Fallout game came out. And the reason why he brought this up is Starfield is getting ready to come out later on this year, and he has no concern about his game being so fundamentally different and able to stand out from the crowd that he just feels like those who are interested in Redfall are going to play Redfall, and they're not going to let a game like Starfield affect that. And it's good to see a confident developer like that, especially one that can stand behind his product. And I'm pretty sure he's put a lot of thought into the development process and how they're going to get this game across the finish line and appeal to consumers. And it's going to probably be a knockout title this year for Microsoft. And I'm really excited to see that happen. I'm also excited to see all the good positive reception that the game is going to get, especially right now before it's even came out. And I mean, what a great time to be an Xbox gamer.
Agreed. Again, I'm keeping an eye on this title, Centurion. It is a pretty good time to be an Xbox gamer. Again, just the with the amount of services that they've added, I mean, Game Pass is pretty awesome. Not to mention some of the new IP that they're coming out with that are in production. I would like to see them sooner rather than later, but hey, again, I'd rather not rush any of them at the same time. That being said,
I at least put out that I just wanted to, it's a thought that just popped in my head. This game actually came out quite a lot quicker than I thought it would. I mean, literally from the time this game was like rumored to it coming out, I really feel this game came out very quickly. And when I found out, that was because they nixed the PlayStation development side, the PlayStation side of the development. I was like, well, there you go. All the resources that were being dedicated towards that part of the development just went towards the Xbox and other ecosystems that are going to get it development. And in my opinion, that's why the game has come out so quickly, was because they streamlined the development of this game.
Yeah, when did they announce it? 2021?
Yeah,
Something like, I know it wasn't that far away. I mean, like literally we were like, I think it may no further than 2020, because that was like one of the conversation points for the pandemic when everybody was stuck at home talking about gaming. All of a sudden, I remember all the tweets and stuff that were popping out on the internet of people doing like alpha testing for the game, and they were taking screenshots and putting them out on the internet. And then there was all that stuff about how Arcane was mad that it got put out on the internet, and it pretty much solidified that this game existed. And that's when I was just like, well, if they're in alpha testing, this game's like years away. But I didn't think it was going to be like 2023 that close.
Yeah, I think it was 2021 because they started the acquisition for them, or they announced it in September of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it would have been after the deal closed. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. So it may have been like really like in the beginning of 2021 then.
Yeah, I think it was their showcase E3 announcement, from what I understand. Yeah. So yeah, not too far. No, and that is nice. You know, that is pretty awesome. That within that time period, and it's gonna be around the corner. We got that Starfield. That has a release date now, and yeah, I mean, we'll see about some of the other games. I mean, Forza Motorsport still has a question mark on it. I mean, I personally, I think that's gonna be more of a like October, November title, but hey, alas, we will see on that. We'll see. Guys, any other comments on Redfall before we start signing off? Yes, no? Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I believe that about does it for tonight. I thought we had a pretty thorough conversation from everybody on the panel tonight. We went over some very big updates to the Xbox Activision acquisition saga with the CMA updates, Hellblade 2 tech news, just overall Unreal Engine 5, as well Redfall previews. Lots of fun stuff from just over the past couple of hours. Really, really fun stuff. And of course, hey, you know what? It was wonderful having you all here this evening tuning in. Love to see the support. You guys rocking the chat and everybody tuning in. But hey, before signing out, if you enjoyed our chat tonight, then please consider giving this episode a like, sharing it out, and of course, subbing over to the channel, as we would love to have you stick around. Next, we're going to go over to the outros, and of course, starting off with our guest, Derek here. But hey, it was nice having you on and getting to know you. I really love the energy tonight. Love your thoughts on the topics. Where can everybody follow you at?
You could definitely follow me on Twitter. That's at the True DH, or you can add me on Xbox, and it's the X, the True Crow X. Hit me up. I'm always open to meeting new people and playing new games.
All right, well said, well said. Guys, give this guy a follow. He's a huge Xbox fan and loves talking games. Next up, let's see who we got here. Eric Shockley, buddy. Hey, I thought you made some really good points tonight. Really, really solid perspective. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, as always, you can find me on at ShockNero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But definitely, if you are playing Resident Evil 4 right now, if you do have a Elite controller, you can at least move that stick to aggressive, which definitely helps with the sensitivity until Capcom patches in that dead zone fix. So, but yep, good show tonight. Thanks for stopping by, and see you later.
Well said, my friend. Moving on, we got Centurion, buddy. Hey, like Shockley, I thought you had some really, really awesome points yourself. Loved the energy from you. Where can everybody find you?
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a great conversation tonight. For those interested in finding me, you can find me at Centurion1307, Xbox Live, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. Thank you to everybody who's been tuning into my content. I love you all. Don't care if you're there to hate on me or support me. The fact you took time out of your day to check out my videos is very humbling. And yeah, for those interested in finding on the podcast I'm on, I am on Gaming Beyond the Box 2 hours before the start of this show with Wilmy Hood and them over there. And you can also find me right here on the TXR Podcast every Sunday night.
That's right, guys. Please hate watch Centurion's stuff, all those added minutes really help him out. No, it's all good. It's all good, bud. And moving on down here, we got General MLD, buddy pal. Hey, again, like everyone else, I gotta say, love the energy from you. I thought you had some really good points. I know I said that about everybody, but hey, I thought it was a pretty good show overall, honestly. But yeah, buddy, awesome points. Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of fun. You guys can find me at MLD Ghost on Twitter, gamer tag GhostMLD. And yeah, thanks to our guests for coming on, and looking forward to the next one.
Indeed, my friend. And to round out the crew, you can find me on YouTube at Invader Gaming. Earlier today, I put out an unboxing video for Atomic Heart's limited edition bundle. Came with some pretty cool stuff, and not a bad price, actually. So if you could snag it, I highly recommend it. But be sure to check it out. That being said...
We're going to get story time with Invader?
Yes, story time with Invader. You see, that's the thing, Centurion. Like, I could have gone through that entire art book, but I just...
Oh, I know, dude. Yeah, I watched your video. That was a cool freaking... I'm sorry. That I got kind of excited watching it because I was like, man, I miss opening collector's editions.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy as many going forward. I mean, there's a couple that I have in mind, a couple of games, but I don't know, I'm just really psyched about this game, and I saw that it came with an art book and a physical copy, which is kind of rare nowadays. So, I had to take a look at it, and the art book, again, it's like about 262 pages, and it's filled with all kinds of good stuff. So, I recommend checking it out.
I like how they put a warning label on the back.
Actually, that was smart. That was smart of them to do that. You know, may contain spoilers for certain characters, environments, and so on. I thought that was a good idea. More I should actually have on it. I mean, going into it, you would think, yeah, you know, it would cover everything, so you should always spoiler watch the art books. But I really like my art book, so I love having it in my collection. But that being said, guys, check it out. Check it out. And I gotta say, again, another fantastic fire show tonight. And like every other week, you know, I look forward to seeing you all here on the next one. Later, guys. It's been awesome.